Imagine paying $200K in prepayments and home appraised at 1 million. You also have access to funds via HELOC. Okay. Now we're talking about arbitrage, leveraging someone else's money to do something. And I'm not going to use big numbers to give us an idea of what we're talking about. Okay. I'm going to give you using some smaller numbers to kind of give us an idea. Okay. So I just need somebody on stage that can help me with this so we can play back and forth on this idea. Is there anybody willing to talk with me this morning?
You know what, Don? I'll do it.
Is that you, Coffee?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, Coffee Brown. Okay. Listen, Coffee, here's what we're talking about. We're going to put on this $200,000 mortgage that I got offline here at 6%. Okay. And it's going to be for 30 years. All right. 360 months. And we're going to get a new payment of $1199.10. All right. So that's what we have to see. And we're going to get some further insight into why we should not focus on interest rate, but only interest cost. Okay. Now, what I'm getting ready to go over is not something that I necessarily advocate, but what I am talking about is understanding how the numbers work so that we don't miss opportunities if the opportunity should present itself. This is not how we generally work the P.I.L.L method, but it gives us something to chew on so that we can have the notion we got to get rid of the old ideas, the old paradigms from the financial gurus that are currently in place. Okay? Because what you're learning here from the P.I.L.L method, and folks, I am not bragging. I'm just telling the truth here. You're not going to hear what I talk about from Dave Ramsey. Okay? And there's a reason why. You're not going to hear what I talk about from Susie Orman or Gene Chatsky on NBC. You're not going to hear what I talk about from any of these financial gurus. And the reason why is because I literally wrote the book on this subject. I own the copyright. They can't talk about it unless they ask my permission. So when people talk to me and say, why doesn't Dave talk about what you talk about? Why doesn't Susie Orman talk about what you talk about? Well, they could, but they'd have to pay me because I own the copyright. So folks, remember, protect your intellectual property, especially if you're on this app. And if you have an idea, watch out what you say, because somebody is going to buy the domain from under you. So that's what we're talking about. If you own it, they can't talk about it. So here's what we're talking about, folks, that just because they don't talk about it, the established gurus, because they don't talk about it, doesn't make it invalid. What it does, it really points up the validation of what I'm talking about as something that is new, that is something that's disruptive, because you don't see other people talking about it because they would be in violation of copyright law. There it is. So we got $200,000 on the screen here at 6%. And the mortgage company wants $231,000 in interest on a $200,000 loan. That means the bank wants you to pay back 115.838% of what you borrowed. So here's what this situation is talking about. Let's just say I have $10,000 on a HELOC. I got $10,000 on a HELOC. That is an equity, that is a home equity line of credit. And let's just say it's 10% interest. Okay. Now, what this is suggesting is if I have $10,000, I can prepay this loan $10,000. But generally, we talk about out of money that we earn out of savings. We've never talked about borrowing money at an interest rate and then applying it to another loan. We've never talked about that. This is the first time we've talked about it because Mr. Orlando Mitchell brought it up. I mean, you're 2 for 2 today, Mr. Orlando Mitchell on Facebook. Oh my gosh. So listen, we're going to borrow $10,000 from a loan source, but they're going to charge me 10% interest on it. And I'm going to apply it to this 6% loan. Coffee, does it make sense to you to borrow 10% money to help pay down 6% money?
No, sir.
No, it doesn't, does it?
Not at all.
But what happens if we start to do the math, though? So listen, I'm going to take $10,000 and I'm going to prepay it to this loan. And I need you guys to see cumulative principal. And we're going to break this all the way down, $10,000. And that takes us down to line 45. I'm knocking off 45 payments by prepaying $10,000 that I borrowed from the HELOC. I borrowed that money. It's 10% money. Okay. Borrowed that from the HELOC. And I'm going to apply that to this loan. Look how much interest I'm saving. $43,000. So the HELOC money is going to save me 45 payments and knock off $43,000 in interest I don't have to pay. Now, what we have to figure out is how much interest the bank is going to charge me for using their money. Now, I'm just going to give you a number here. Okay. Let's just say I have, after all my bills are paid, and that's after everything is paid. I mean, investments, everything. I got about $1,000 left over. Okay. Every month. So conceivably, if I wanted to, I could pay that HELOC back in about 10 months because everything else is paid. All right. And the reason why I can put down money on a HELOC because it's a revolving line of credit. Any money I give the HELOC, I can take immediately back out to use again. So let's just say I can pay the HELOC back in 10 months. Well, let's just make it a year. And they're going to charge me 10% on using their money. Folks, if I borrow somebody's money at 10% and they charge me 10% interest, okay? Because it's 10% a year. How much interest am I going to pay the HELOC in a year's time? What's 10% of $10,000?
$1,000.
$1,000. So I can borrow their money, pay them $1,000 for the use of their money, and then take that money and apply it to my mortgage, knock off 45 months, and save me $43,000 in interest by using their money. Folks, that's called arbitrage. Does that make sense to anybody here on stage? Oh my.
Absolutely. Absolutely. OMG, Don. That's the new term. OMG.
Not that new 10K. Get out of here. It's not that new.
No, remember, Don is like 190 years old. So back in the Stone Age, they didn't have OMG. Back in the Stone Age, when they say OMG, you probably think it's an axe to cut down a tree.
Don, you just like killed it. I mean, who doesn't want to say, man, that could be less like a quarter of a mortgage.
Yeah. And so this is what we're talking about, folks. If we understand interest cost versus interest rate. So I'm going to look at what does it cost me to use somebody else's money? I'll figure out the cost. All right. Now, what is my benefit for using their money? And when you do the math, it's a no-brainer.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.